All right, my friends, welcome back to another episode of the Professional Brotherhood podcast. I'm excited to have with me another great guest this evening. I have Chief David Brierty on tonight, or maybe today, whenever you happen to be listening to this. It's tonight when we're recording. Um, Dave and I have connected through social media, through Instagram, a while ago, probably prior to the whole professional brotherhood thing. I think we found some common goals in fitness and you know, the fitness lifestyle regarding the fire service. So I want to welcome Dave to the show. Welcome. And Chief, if you wouldn't mind, just give us a little introduction to yourself.
Chief, thanks so much for having me. So I've been a volunteer firefighter. I'm going to be going on 18 years coming 2021. Been the same as an EMT. I'm no longer working EMT anymore. I do still work at the Lincoln Tunnel as a first responder, so I do use my medical skills there. But as far as riding the bus anymore, that doesn't go on for about 5 years now. I've been off a bus, and
All right.
I got to tell you, I don't know if I necessarily miss it. I miss the good people, but
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
I
I
hear you.
don't miss riding in the back of the bus anymore. But
I hear you. I hear you.
so yeah,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, no. So 18 years on the volunteer fire service. Now on two departments, which is exciting. I'm the shot caller in one place, and I'm a probie in the other, and it's fantastic. I absolutely love it.
I'm making some notes here as you go through your intro, because there's some things that I knew through following your social that I definitely want to come back to
Yeah,
and talk to you about. And being a member of two departments is definitely one of those things. We'll definitely come back to that.
yeah.
Um, you know, when I connect with somebody and kind of get to know them through social media. For us, it was Instagram. Um, you learn different things, not just about
Yeah.
individuals, but about different parts of the fire service or the first responder world that is out there. That even though look, I'm a lifelong New Yorker, right? Not to the five boroughs, obviously to upstate. Um, I never knew a job like yours existed, right? I
Yeah.
just, I just assumed that, the Lincoln Tunnel was, handled by the FDNY for pretty much any emergency that went on there, and didn't know about, what you do as a career. So let's talk about that for a little while, and then we're going to come back and talk a lot of volunteerism as well.
Well, I got to tell you, up until a few years before I started, which I started in 2015, up until a few years before that, I was in the same boat as you. I had no idea that that job existed until a friend of mine started working there, and I was like, "What do you mean you're doing emergency service for the Lincoln Tunnel and Holland Tunnel?" I'm like, I figured the same thing. Jersey and
Right.
New York just split the job.
Right.
But then I ended up taking the test with the Port Authority and did very well. And I started in 2015, and I went from at the Lincoln Tunnel. I went from number 72 in seniority. I'm down to number 26 or 27 now.
Wow. That's
It's gone real fast. A lot of turnover the last few years. A lot of retirements the last few years. A lot of good people have left the job, but
mhm.
it's a great job. And you know what? It's one of those jobs where I like it, it's the jack of all trades job.
Mhm.
We do the firefighting end, which is all vehicle firefighting. There's no
Sure.
structural at this point.
Right.
Um, Extrication, any medical calls, whether it be accidents or people sick on a bus or something like that.
Mhm.
And then of course we do the towing end, which was new to me,
Sure.
completely new to me. But you know what? A lot of mechanical things that I never thought I would have to do that I'm doing, and it's cool. It keeps the brain going, keeps the mind
Oh,
working, and
absolutely.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and what is the job title? All right, because some people are probably like, what the hell are they talking about? What was the actual job title?
So it's Port Authority of New York and New Jersey Tunnel and Bridge Agent.
Okay.
It's a mouthful.
It is it is a mouthful. It is a mouthful.
So when people ask me, what do you do for a living? I do emergency services for the Lincoln Tunnel.
Right.
It's just so much easier.
Sure, absolutely.
Then they're like, oh, you guys are those guys in those little trucks. Yep, that's me.
Right.
The guy in a little truck.
Right. Well, an agent isn't, that's not a good fit. That kind of sounds like law enforcement, you know, when they say agent, you know? So yeah, that's definitely a better way to sum it up, where people will understand. Yeah. I remember not that long ago, obviously, you know, I've been following you for a while, and you've posted some stuff on your Instagram, but I remember you shared a civil service announcement for it, the job.
Yes.
Not right. Too long ago, probably last year sometime. And I was like, wow, look at this. You know, it just always amazes me. You know, you kind of think you know a lot, you know, and then somebody throws something out there, and you realize you're always learning. You're learning every day, you know, which is cool, because one of the things that I've tried to highlight on this podcast is not just, you know, volunteerism and professional volunteerism and all the things that we talk about, but I've brought some different people on to talk about different avenues in the fire service that they might not typically think of, you know. So here you go. Here's another one, you know. Very, very cool. So let's talk about you've been chief now for how long in Ridgefield?
So chief of department, I've been for the year, but I've been a chief of the department for 3 years now. Okay. So battalion in 2018, deputy 2019, and chief of 2020.
Okay. And how have you enjoyed that ride, and how are you enjoying being at the top spot now?
It has been a ride, that is for sure. Definitely a roller coaster. Ups, downs, turns, spins, all kinds of craziness. You know, you're dealing with your own family life. You're dealing with the fire service. You're dealing with everyone else's family life, and making sure that they're in not only top shape physically, but mentally. And, you know, when somebody's going through something, you got to make sure they're going through it and they're not getting stuck in a rut. And it definitely, you know, it could be a handful. You know, with the best of us, that being chief it's a lot of responsibility. I try to have a lot of fun, but it's definitely a handful. This year being chief, you know, not many of us can say we've been the chief during a pandemic and led our department. You know, it's definitely one for the history books for me. I never thought I'd be spending the majority of my budget on PPE. You know, as far as, well, I shouldn't say PPE, but I should say medical PPE, because I figured I'd be buying fire gear and not masks and hand sanitizer and everything like that. So that definitely was a change for me. And I think with the help of my deputy and my battalion, we got through it very well. Yeah. And I got reelected as the battalion chief again. So I'll be going around for another 3. Don't ask me why. I'm hoping the next 3 are better than the last 3. Not that they weren't good, but they definitely were a learning experience, 100%. I don't think I ever stopped learning the whole time. You know, you pull up to a job, and one of my first large incidents as a chief was we had an explosion, and I happened to be off of work that day, and I heard it come in, and I'm like, you know, that can't be my town. Right. I got my truck, and you know, I saw the column from my house, and you know, it was time to get the game face on, and you know, it's definitely different not getting off the truck and pulling a line, you know, and that's what I try to explain to guys that want to you know, aspire to be a chief or a chief officer, is it's that holding back and letting everybody else do the work and making sure you direct them in the right, you know, place and things like that is huge difference from, you know, throwing a pack on and going in and getting the job done.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to get this quote. I'm going to get this quote wrong, but I was listening to another podcast today. I was listening to Jim Moss's podcast and he had Captain Mark Van Appen on there, Von Appen. And one of the things that he said in that podcast was, when you're in the leadership role, the easy part for a firefighter is stretching the line, going interior, fighting the fire. Like that's the easy part for us. It's the hard part is, knowing when to pull back, knowing when to, do a good survey, knowing when not to go running right in there. And that, that really, and I know I definitely screwed up how he said it, but you get the idea. And it's true. I mean, we're kind of, we are attuned to being able to show up and just go to work and do our thing. And, every once in a while you get hit with that incident where you're like, whoa,
pump the brakes,
guys, and that's hard. That's hard. It's hard as a leader in a position like yourself. And it's sometimes it's hard to reel your people back, because they just want to go.
And it's funny because, I can recall many, many times being a line firefighter and a regular line officer, lieutenant or captain, and going, what are we doing? Why are we pulling out? We're making progress. We're making a good knock. And you come outside and you're like, oh, maybe we're not.
Yeah.
All right. And now being the chief, I see, like, listen, you guys are inside. There's a lot going on out here that you don't know about. You think you're good in your one room, but outside there's a whole nother world. And and now you see it for sure. It for sure. I think one of the hardest things for me on that explosion was pulling up and telling my firefighters not to put water on the fire.
Sure.
They're like, Chief, we're ready. We got our line stretch. I'm like, but we got a free burning gas line.
Yeah.
We got a free burning gas line, and it was a huge main, out from under the house, and we had to wait. Sitting and waiting was definitely wasn't easy on those guys, but they did it. It was good.
No, it's sitting and waiting is never easy. And you make an excellent point. I tell the story often in my recruit classes of some of my earlier years as an officer and being on a pretty decent size 3-story commercial structure fire, and the guys on the inside saying, we're trying to pull them out, and they're saying, give us 2 minutes. We got this. Give us 2 minutes. We got this, and I'm looking at the outside of the building and the whole 3rd floor is on fire. And I'm like, guys, you don't got this. You got to get out. They're like, give us a couple minutes. We got this. We got this, and then they, like you just said, they walk outside and they turn around, they look at the building like, oh shit, I guess you're right. We don't got it, but you're right. Until you get that, that experience of seeing things from all the different perspectives, that can be hard. And we've all been in that position where, like, we would just want to go in and get it done,
150%, without a doubt.
Yeah. So Ridgefield is a fully volunteer company?
Fully volunteer.
Okay.
Fully volunteer.
All right.
So we're about a 65-man department right now. We cover part of the New Jersey Turnpike. We cover part of Route 46. And then we have obviously a very large residential area. Sure. And we actually have a very large industrial area of our town. So a lot of warehouses, a lot of manufacturing, things like that. So little mixture.
And listen, 65 is a solid number in today's day and age, for sure.
I wish we can get them all out. That's the biggest thing, and that's everybody suffering right now.
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. But what are some struggles that you have seen, regarding your volunteers, and are you comfortable with, the roster that you have and being able to, basically turn guys out 24/7?
So we're very lucky in the respect that we have our Department of Public Works. We have a few guys, or quite a few guys, that are on the fire department, and they're allowed to leave during the day for calls. If we didn't have that, we'd be in a tough spot. There's no doubt about it. It'd be tossing up a coin to see if we're going to get everybody or not. But during the day, we do okay. At night, obviously, is better. Everybody's home. Sure. After 4 p.m., after 5 p.m., that's usually golden time. Everybody's home.
Yep. Yep.
But we know that's not when the fires happen. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. Exactly.
so we're lucky in the respect that we have, I want to say 5 or 6 guys on the DPW that definitely are a huge part of the fire service, and they're salty guys. They're really good firemen. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's definitely a benefit. We have some, most of our, um, highway guys, village guys, they had the opportunity to leave. Usually, I think most of them have like a second alarm rule or something. They're not supposed to go out on the initial call, but any job, whether it's a civil service job like that or private industry, if your supervisor or boss is allowing you to respond to fire calls, you gotta be grateful for that. I know I am, as
100%.
a
Yeah.
chief, and all the years that
Yeah.
I've worked for a family business, I don't abuse it, but they've always understood, because I work for a family that's always given back to the community, not in the same way, but they get it, and
That's great.
that's important. It
It's a
really
home run.
is. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure, for sure. So you guys have had obviously it's been a tough year for all of us, like you said. This was my last year as chief of department, and I'm coming back in as an assistant chief again. But
There you go.
like you said, a lot of different things to deal with, things that I didn't expect to be dealing with at the beginning of 2020. I was
Yeah.
looking forward to a year kind of the same, and awards dinners, and all the fun stuff that we look forward to, and
Yeah.
all that stuff has been wiped out. But you guys had I know a couple pretty interesting things happen for you down there. You managed to hook up with The Rock, and
Yeah. Yeah.
tell us about that, because it's pretty cool.
So it was awesome. So I have a friend of mine, and you know what, he'll yell at me later for saying his name. Anthony Lacaraza,
Mhm.
very dear friend of mine for about 15 years, and he's a United States Secret Service agent, and we've been very good friends for a while. And I used to do some things with him a long time ago, and we stayed friends. And all of a sudden, I get a phone call from him, and he's like, "Hey, you're going to get a phone call from this guy." And he's, from the First Responders Children's Foundation. Now, up until this point, I had never heard of this foundation before.
Mhm.
Did my research, and they're a phenomenal foundation. If anybody listening is looking for a foundation to donate to, that is one foundation. They take care of all children of first responders, any first responder that is in need of housing due to COVID. If they want to stay away from their families, they'll put you up in a hotel. They get food to first responders. They've been taking care of first responders' children ever since the towers went down. Their main goal was to take care of those children that were left behind
Okay.
by our brothers and sisters that perished.
Mhm.
And they've just gotten bigger and bigger. And this year, they've really started making a name for themselves. And they called me up, and they're like, "Hey, listen, Anthony told us, we were looking for a small fire department to donate some merchandise to, and Anthony mentioned you guys, so tell us a little bit about yourself." So I gave him a little bio about Ridgefield, and they're like, "All right, listen, we have a donation of the new sneaker from The Rock, and he would like to make a donation to you guys." And I'm on the phone like, "What? Like the Rock, as in like Dwayne, the guy from wrestling?" And they're like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah."
Yeah,
Like the guy I grew
can
up.
you smell what The Rock is cooking guy? That
Yeah,
guy.
I'm like, this is insane. And they're like, "All right, well, we'll be there tomorrow at noon." And I'm like, wait. It's 4 o'clock. What do you mean tomorrow at noon? And
Right.
they're like, no, we're coming. We're on the way. I said, okay. So I set it up as quick as I could. And they showed up, and they weren't lying. They showed up with a truckload of sneakers, and they took care of every single one of my guys. And along, in cooperation with The Rock and Under Armour, they
Mhm.
were phenomenal. And my guys were blown away, because they were even more surprised than I was, because I had a lot more information. But I was basically like, "Hey, listen, be at the firehouse tomorrow at noon. We got this big donation coming for us."
Right. Right. Right.
They opened the boxes. They were blown away. And then, of course, the letter from The Rock. And it was fantastic. It was
Yeah,
fantastic.
really, really cool. I mean, it's one of
Yeah,
those, probably one of those once in a lifetime things. And like,
100%.
yeah. And like you said, it just completely out of the blue, right? I mean,
Yes,
which is
completely
great.
out of the blue, that was the best part about it. And
Yeah.
like, I just happened to have the right friend.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
all,
Yep.
that's all it came down to.
But listen, it's things like that, that, you know, keep everybody going during a year like this year. I mean,
100%.
so it's nice that something like that was able to happen for you guys, that having that connection.
Yeah.
It's just, you never know, but I'm sure that kind of, something like that just kind of gave your guys a little uplift when they probably could have really used it.
It definitely was a nice morale booster, and what, for a short period of time, it got the guys together for a little bit, and to shoot the shit, and it was good. It was really good. They got to know this foundation, and now we're hooked up with this foundation where I don't know if you saw about the toy drive that they do. So
Okay.
they'd called me probably in like end of October, beginning of November. And they're like, hey, do you want to participate in our toy drive? I said, absolutely. Send me the boxes. We'll fill them up. They're like, no. You misunderstand. We're going to send you guys toys to give out to your children and whoever you think is in need. And it became this huge thing. I ended up becoming like the central hub for the area. And we gave out toys to hundreds and hundreds of kids. And it was
That's amazing.
absolutely amazing. Such a good feeling. And now, like I said, if anybody's looking to make a donation somewhere, First Responders Children's Foundation, 100%.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's been, everybody this year has been scrambling to do whatever they can do,
Yes, yes,
especially for the kids, to kind of keep things somewhat normal,
yes,
in a far from normal year.
yeah,
So it's great that, that all of this came together for you guys, that, your membership benefited from a little something, but in the end, that it just kind of opened some doors, and, being able to do a toy drive like that's amazing. So good for
yeah.
you guys. That's awesome. So you told us in the beginning that you're chief in Ridgefield, but you're at the bottom of the line in
Bottom of the line.
Fort Lee, right? Fort Lee, New
Yes.
Jersey. Is that where you're at? So this is interesting,
Yeah.
because, and again, one of the things that for me is the coolest part of this platform is learning stuff about different parts of the world. Now I've got some Jersey friends, and I've had some Jersey, quite a few Jersey people on here before. I mean, look, Jersey's right. You guys are right next door, so
Yeah.
when I hear something new from Jersey, it's actually a little bit more shocking for me than, when I expect to hear crazy things from halfway across the country or north of the border or whatever. So in New York, okay, you can't volunteer in two places. You can't actively volunteer in two different towns.
Right.
You can be an associate member in one place and an
Sure.
active member in another, but you can't actively volunteer in two agencies. So when I saw you doing the whole Fort Lee thing, I was like, oh, this is interesting. Now, I would imagine, just geographically knowing what I know about Fort Lee, that's probably a pretty interesting experience, because I got to imagine that's a pretty busy area.
Very busy area. So Fort Lee. So I'm born and raised in Ridgefield,
Okay.
and I moved to Fort Lee in early 2019,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm still close enough. So you have to be within a certain distance to still be active in Ridgefield. So I'm like within just a little over a half mile. The towns touch, so it's like I'm literally right down the hill into Ridgefield coming from Fort Lee. So I was here for a little while, and the guys kept poking me, and they're like, you got to join over here. You got to join over here. And a lot of towns in New Jersey, you can't volunteer in more than one town.
Okay.
It just so happens in Ridgefield and Fort Lee, we don't mind, because honestly, the manpower, especially if you're qualified, is awesome.
Sure.
So I sat on it for a little while, and I had been dealing with my father passing away, and things like that. And I got through that, and the firehouse that is in Fort Lee that I'm a part of is like literally right around the corner from where I live. So I finally went down and I sat with the guys, and I'm like, listen, here's my deal. You know, I'm a chief over here. I'll give you whatever I can give you, but obviously my primary responsibility is there. And they understood, welcomed me with open arms. And obviously I'm not one of those guys that half-asses anything.
Right.
So
right.
I give 2 holes of myself, one to Ridgefield and one to Fort Lee. But I got to tell you, I absolutely love being the new guy again. It's great. And you know what? It keeps your mind really where it should be. Where, you know, guys at the Fort Lee Firehouse, they're like, Chief. I'm like, no, it's Dave.
Right.
I'm Dave.
Right.
I'm Dave in Ridgefield. I'm Chief Dave, but I'm still Dave.
Right.
I'm Dave here. You know, I'm sweeping the floor and mopping the floor with you guys. And you know what? I do it in Ridgefield too. There's no, you know, hierarchy there. I don't believe in that. You know, if I'm going to ask you to do something, I'm going to know how to do it, and I'm going to show you how to do it.
Yeah.
Or you know, do it right with you, you know, and that's where, you know, being a Probie in another town, it's awesome. It really keeps you in that lane that you're no better than anybody else, man. You're just a fireman.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And that's huge. You know, I mean, I've listened to many people say the same thing. It's kind of where my mindset has always been at.
Yeah.
It's always good to hear somebody else, you know, say it that way, because, you know, unfortunately there are people out there that do let that leadership role, that leadership position kind of swell their head, and they kind of forget where they came from. And listen, there's times where you've got to put on the chief hat and be the
100%.
chief, right?
100%.
But with that being said, and I think it's a huge respect earner. It's a morale booster. And I know that you're probably the same way. You know, if I'm at somebody else's fire, right? It just happened to us a couple weeks ago, right? We're at somebody else's fire. We're a mutual aid company there. I'm not doing command. I'm in fighting fire. You know, comes time, the fire's over, we're picking up, right? Personally, I won't walk past the length of hose. You know, I'll pick it up, I'll grab it, I'll stretch it to the street, I'll drain it, I'll roll it if I have to, you know, whatever. I'll just do it, because like you just said, that's what you do, right? We're all firefighters, right? Doesn't matter how many bugles we have on our hat. We're all firefighters. And you know, when people see you doing that, you know, I'm sure when your guys see you doing that, they appreciate that, you know,
they do.
And I know what the experience that I have had many a times, and I wouldn't be surprised if you had the same experience as well. You know, you'll grab a length of line, drag it out to the street, and you'll be out there rolling up. You'll have a guy come over. Yo, Chief, I got that. You know, and I'm like, well, bro, I can roll hose. No. I got it. You know?
Yes.
But it just goes to show you, you know, for a guy or girl to come over and do that, you know, that's basically them telling you like, hey, I respect the fact that you're doing it, but I also respect your position, and
correct.
And let me take that from you, you know?
Yeah.
And that's huge. You can't write better lessons than that, you know?
Yeah. It's the truth. And, you know, in the firehouse, you know, we have our gear racks are lined up by seniority, more or less. And the front of the rack, you know, I call them my senior advisory board. You know, some of these guys have never been line officers. They're just old salty dogs, and I love them to death because they're kick-ass firefighters, and they'll tell me right to my face what the deal is.
Yeah.
You know, no beating around the bush, no nothing. You know, Chief, listen, I think we got to work on this. All right, bub, let's go work on it. You know, and that's it. You know, it's an awesome bunch of guys to have. And then I have my young guys, and my young guys are like little firecrackers, and they're awesome. And then they got me, you know, in between, where I got to be the young firecracker and I got to be the old salty dog too. And I like that mixture where I want my young guys to see that the chief is willing to pick up a broom just like us. And I want the salty guys to see that's the guy that we brought up in this firehouse.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
absolutely. Yeah.
so
You know, walking by garbage on the floor or whatever. It's all,
yeah,
it all says something. It all speaks to a positive culture,
yes,
and
yes,
people look up to that. And, like you said, um, having senior firefighters, um, regardless of whether or not they ever held a position or not, there's something to be said for seniority. There's something to be said for, those type of
yes,
leadership skills, without the different color helmet.
yes.
And it's great to have those people around because, like you said, they keep you grounded.
Keep
They
you grounded.
definitely.
And you know what? I'm sure you have these guys in your firehouse where you pull up to a fire and the first engine pulls up and 4 guys get off the truck and you're like, that fire's going to go out.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely,
You know,
absolutely.
and I'm very proud that I have quite a few of those guys on my department where I can breathe a sigh of relief when they get off the truck.
Yeah,
And it's an awesome feeling.
yeah. No, it definitely is. And, just being able to, like we said earlier, volunteerism in 2020 going into 2021 is tough, and to be able to keep people engaged and keep
Yeah,
people coming
yeah,
back and, have people there, week after week, day after day to just continue doing this. Um, we got to value that, and we got to value their time, and we got to, and that's extremely important, because if we're wasting these guys time, and it's not going to get us to where we want to go. That's for
that's
sure.
right. That's right. I think the biggest hurt this year was the lack of camaraderie.
Yeah.
You go to a drill or you go to a meeting and you can't hang out after. You got to get out of the firehouse, guys. Sorry, it's closed. I think
Yeah.
that's the biggest hurt is that part right there, because these young guys, you're trying to corral them in and bring them into that community, that love of the fire service, and
Yep.
to be able to sit around and shoot the shit with these guys. And unfortunately, we're missing that this year.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
I'm hoping real soon we'll have that back, because I miss it. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. No, you're right. It's tough. Look, there's nothing normal about anything that's going on right now. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just it's as far from, people say the new norm, the new norm. I'm not ready for this to be the new norm. I'm
No,
sorry.
no way.
I'm ready to put this in our rear view and move on to better days. But you're right. These things do affect, our organization as a whole.
Yep.
We were shut down for the first, I don't know, 6 weeks when things got really, really bad here in New
Yeah.
York, where same thing, we grounded our older firefighters because, of everything we were being told to do. And those
Yep.
were some difficult conversations to have. And, then we kind of started getting back to normal again, doing some drills, but it never really got completely back to normal.
Right.
And,
Right.
and then the second wave hit, and what, I don't want to say luckily, but it, hit right around the holidays, where it's typically our slower time anyway. So we're like,
Yeah.
you know what,
It's true.
let's,
True.
let's take the next few weeks off. Let's get into 2021. And hopefully when we get into 2021, we can, we'll be at least heading in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you're right. It has been difficult for sure. So let's talk a little bit about you and I connected, really through fitness, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it
I
was,
found you on Instagram, working out like a madman, and motivation, without a doubt. You're part of my motivation, definitely. I've been lacking. I'm not even going to tell you. I've been a slack dog lately. I got to get back in my garage gym and get back to work. That's for sure.
yeah. But you know, it just goes to show people, talk to me about this all the time, the power of social media and the people that you meet. And, we didn't know each other at all,
Yep.
I've been doing the fitness motivation thing for a while now,
Yeah.
because it's been a positive part of my life. It's gotten me through some difficulties and
Yeah.
kept me going and kept me moving. And, I get to connect with other like-minded people. And, that's kind of how we connected. And then
Yeah.
next thing you know, you're posting your journey. And, I believe your wife as well, right? She's
Yes. She
pretty,
is. She is solid. She is one of my main motivators. We
yep.
motivate each other.
Yeah.
And through COVID, we quit the gym because it was just a dangerous place to be as far as we were concerned.
Yeah.
But we have built quite a significant garage gym, and it was funny because the guys in the firehouse were all like, "Hey man, can we come over? Can we use some of that stuff?" And
That's awesome.
I should have charged the fee, but I didn't. I was we were good
Yeah.
guys, and everybody had to spray everything down, and it worked, and it was only
Yeah.
a couple guys in there at a time, and it worked. It really did.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, there's a reason why dumbbell sales and kettlebell sales and anything
Went
regarding
through the
weights
roof.
have gone through the
Yeah.
roof.
Yeah.
You can't touch
Yeah.
a 15-pounder at Walmart right now for,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, because that's what people have done. You want to stay committed, you want to stay healthy, you want to stay fit for the job, and they've created, at-home gyms. And I mean,
Yeah.
look, our gyms opened up in a modified version a while ago,
Same
but
here. Yeah.
I'm not running on the treadmill with a mask on. I just don't want to do it.
Can't do it.
It's just not my thing. And I know people that do it and they're like, it's not really that bad. I run on my treadmill in my basement. I'd rather be watching the TV and people watching and whatever else, but it is what it is,
Yeah.
But we just keep moving forward. But
so we continue to motivate each other, my wife and I. But that's we're the only two members of the gym right now. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I have one other guy that comes a couple times a week, and
okay,
and that's it. But other guys went back. They felt safe enough. I said, listen, to each his own.
Right.
Everybody's got their own thing. Everybody's got their own comfort zone.
Right.
And I'm still comfortable doing what I'm doing at home.
Yeah. And again, continuing to, move that message that, hey, listen, it doesn't matter that we're not getting paid for this job that we're doing. We got to be prepared to do it. And that just doesn't mean the equipment prepared, our training, prepared with our training. It means like physically, we need to be prepared to do this job. And that's, still to this day, one of the things I struggle with when I'm teaching and I'm talking to young recruits, and because I know that sometimes they just don't get it, and I'm like, guys, right now you have the age thing going for you. You're 21, 22 years old, nothing in the world is bothering you. Trust me, it next thing you know, you're 30.
things are gonna start hurting real soon.
Right, exactly. And you don't bounce back the way you used to, and
that's for sure.
But yeah, that's awesome. So let me ask you this. So in Jersey, are there any programs that help you guys with recruitment and retention? Like, do you guys have retirement programs like we do here in New York? Or is there anything that, that like a kicker, just something that you can say, hey, listen, this is what you're going to get if you give us
right. So
X amount of time.
We have a stipend program.
Okay.
So they had done away with the LoSAP before I had even joined, when I was a kid.
Okay.
And they had started when I first joined the fire department. It was 100% volunteer, zero. Yep. I'm sorry. We got like $100 clothing allowance at the end of the year. Okay. It was something like that.
Right.
And now, we've built up to this stipend program where if you make so much percent, I think it's 35% of the quarter, you get the allotted stipend, which
Okay.
in Ridgefield is $950 before taxes. In Fort Lee, it's significantly more. But the call volume in Fort Lee is significantly more.
Sure.
So,
Yeah. That's interesting. So, and
yeah.
do you
And we still have a hard time. I gotta
really?
tell you.
Yeah, that's
Still
what I
have
was
a
going to
hard
ask.
time.
Do you find that it does motivate, or it does, bring people in or keep people around? What do you think it does more? Do you think it brings new members in, or do you think it retains old members? A combination of both?
I think it brings younger guys in, like a 17-year-old kid, $1,000 a quarter
Yeah,
is nice, living at home and not having any bills,
sure.
but we have guys that, and I don't think it retains anybody, because the guys that are here, that have been here a while, were here before it was around. So I think it's just like a kind of a booster for them.
Right.
But it definitely brings the young kids in. The thing that I think turns them away sometimes is the 9 months of fire academy,
Okay.
twice a week at night and everything like that.
Right.
So keeping them motivated through fire school is a huge thing.
Mm-hmm. Now, is there any additional stipend or anything for the training aspect of it, or it is what it is?
That's
Whatever.
it. Yeah,
Okay.
that's
All right.
it. Yeah.
But I would imagine, and here's the issue that I have with the LOSAP program in New York, right? So I have two different LOSAPs, one from my previous department, one from my department now. When I retire, I'm looking at a decent monthly check. It'll make a car payment, some gas,
Sure.
whatever.
Yeah.
It'll be all right. But I'm at the stage of my life where, like, I can think about that stuff now.
Right.
When I was 20 years old, I could care
Could
less
care
about,
less.
yeah, I could care less about what I was going to get when I was 65,
Yeah.
or 60. Like that's so far off. It's you're not even thinking about it. So
That's right.
I've never really looked at the LOSAP as a recruitment tool. I've looked at it as a retention tool,
Yes.
for people that are there and people that have put the time in, but never really much of a recruitment tool, where I would think, like you said, a stipend such as that. I mean, yeah, especially for a young kid, I mean, that's not
Nice.
bad. That's a nice,
Listen,
chunk of change.
I'm not saying it's bad for me. It's nice. Like you said, it helps with a car payment.
Sure.
It helps with, whatever little things here and there. It's a great little, bit of money in your pocket. And I always tell guys, listen, don't treat it as income. It's a nice little booster, because when Christmas comes around, you got a little, savings put away to buy Christmas gifts, and you don't have to worry about taking that out of your pocket. And, try to look at it like that. And
I could see a 17-year-old kid, like you said, living home with mom and dad, playing Xbox in between fire calls, right? Like they're like, oh, this is my job, like, I don't have to go out and get a job, because I'm getting that stipend from the firehouse,
Yep.
Yeah.
And they get to leave school too, which is,
oh, really?
You have to have permission from each teacher signed in, in high school. You have to, each teacher on your curriculum has to sign it, but they're allowed to leave school for fire calls.
Really?
That's another, I should say that's another thing that brings them in sometimes.
Yeah.
The kids that want to get out of class.
Yeah. And does that change by township? Does that change by area? Or is that a state?
Yeah, that's
definitely,
no, it's not a statewide thing. That's per town, without a doubt. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I mean, just listening to what you've said, tonight versus, some of the stories I've heard from other people in other parts of Jersey definitely seems to be a little bit more regionalized. Like there's a lot, it seems like there's a lot of different things going on at, like, the town levels. Whereas in New York, we're home rule. The agency makes a lot of their own decisions, but there's a lot more state and county involvement in the stuff that we do than there is in Jersey. From
there's
what it
more
seems.
and more, it's becoming a lot of counties getting involved a lot more than they used to. So up in my part of Jersey by Fort Lee, each town does their own thing. And of course we call mutual aid when we need it and things like that. We have mutual aid agreements. Now you go a little further south and you have townships which have 4 or 5 districts, and each district does their own thing, but yet they all answer to that township.
Right.
So like if I was to go down that part of Jersey, I would be lost in translation.
Right.
100%. So, but like I said, in the last few years, the county's gotten more involved in the mutual aid aspect and, coordinating responses and staging and things like that, where we didn't have that years ago.
Right.
So it's definitely new. And sometimes it's helpful and sometimes not so much.
Yeah. I hear you. Yeah. I meant to ask you this earlier. Is Fort Lee all volunteer? Or is that combination?
So it's volunteer, but we have the stipend also.
Okay. All right.
So during the day, Fort Lee's interesting. So during the day, we have a very large fire prevention bureau. I want to say, they probably got to have 15 guys on a day, 10, maybe, between 10 and 15 guys on a day. And they'll answer the automatic alarms during the day. Anything more than an automatic alarm, a district company. So there's 4 companies in Fort Lee. A district company will get toned out. And then anything smoke or fire, obviously they have all their different protocols. And then 4 p.m. to 6 a.m. the next morning, you have a duty company for the week.
Okay.
So like my company's on duty this week. So we answer all the automatic alarms and all the regular alarms on the evening and overnight. Anything more than an automatic alarm, they tone out, more companies to come.
Interesting.
So it's interesting how they do it, but it really does work. So you're talking 6 guys on a shift, and there's 4-hour shifts and then the overnight shifts. And normally you have to be at the firehouse. Obviously with COVID, they're letting us respond from home. But normally you're at the firehouse, and 6 guys jump on a truck and take in the automatic alarms.
Wow. And what's the call volume there?
I think, we just did our 1,440, something like that.
Yeah.
1,440. 1,500 for the year we'll probably do.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Any EMS or no EMS?
They have their own, it's not a part of the fire department.
Okay.
They have their own EMS, paid during the day, volunteer at night.
Yeah. Yes. So for those of you listening, a lot of our listeners are obviously in the tri-state area, so they know all these areas that we're talking about. But we also have quite a few listeners from the Midwest, the West, up north. Yeah. Make sure you take out your Google Maps and you punch in Ridgefield, you punch in Fort Lee, so you know what we're talking about. I mean, you don't get much closer to the 5 boroughs than Fort Lee.
That's right. It's stone's throw away.
It is a stone's throw away, and I have ended up in the wrong lane coming into the George Washington Bridge a few times and have cursed myself through Fort Lee trying to find my way back to the bridge.
That's right. Right.
But it's a busy area, so that's cool that you're able to do that. And there's definitely some interesting ways of compensating, we'll say, to recruit and retain members. Because I have heard, stipends from different areas and paper calls and things like that. But
right.
I know there's areas out there, and New York is one of them where they're trying to look at different ways to recruit and retain. And maybe these are some of the things that you'll see in the future. The fire districts won't like it because everything ends up costing them a lot of money. So
of course. But, what's funny is as we're doing this stipend program, we're still looking for ways to recruit and retain because it's not working as well as it used to.
Right.
So,
which I think, and this is just a personal opinion, I think that just kind of speaks to volunteerism as a whole.
100%.
It's not volunteerism in emergency services. It's just volunteerism as a whole. What's volunteerism at the Elks Lodge or the Rotary or the Kiwanis or whatever your civic organizations are? It's probably not what it used to be.
It's a dying breed.
Either.
It really is.
It is. And we just got to keep being creative, but most importantly, hold on to those people that we have, and
Oh God,
and
yeah,
make sure
yeah,
we're doing everything that we can to keep them around for as long as we can.
yeah. You're talking, in the '90s, growing up, I remember, watching my father and going, me and my brother used to jump in the car and go to the firehouse with him to calls.
Mm-hmm.
Guys used to fight to get on the trucks.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was when it was 100% free,
Right.
and it's definitely a complete different situation now.
Right. Yeah. Well, everything's changed. The training has changed.
Yeah.
The commitment from that
Commitment.
side has definitely changed. It is a big commitment for somebody to come in and, dedicate a large chunk of their life um, to this field, and,
Yeah,
that's why we just got to be thankful every day for the people that we have and the people that do
absolutely
continue to
am.
walk through the door,
Yeah, 100%.
but, anything else? Anything in closing you wanna talk about? I mean, this was great. I definitely learned some things today that I did not know, which I try to look for that opportunity in every guest, every recording, every social media feed I find.
Yeah.
This was definitely cool for me. So
This is a
anything.
privilege, Chief. Thanks so much for having me. To the people listening, I just got to tell you, doing this 18 years, whether it's for free or for a little bit of money that we get through the stipend, it's from the heart. And if you're doing it for free, God bless you. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep doing it, because we need you. Your communities need you. And you know what? It's going to keep you going. It's going to keep you on the right path. It's going to keep you sane.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. There are things that we can do in this world, and this is definitely one of the more noble of those things.
That's right.
And I
That's
think
right.
I think if you get involved in emergency services and the fire service, and you become a part of the family, the brotherhood, there's no turning back. And if you appreciate it like you do, and I know like I do, I think you're in for a lot of years of good. So
Good times, and there's nothing like it.
absolutely not. Dave, I appreciate you coming on the show. I appreciate your feedback and your messages, throughout the years here.
Absolutely,
I
man.
always enjoy hearing from you. I always enjoy, watching your workouts when you're doing them. All right. So
I got to get back
we're
at
gonna,
it. I got to get back at it, Chief.
we're gonna get back to that.
Get back to work. Back to work.
That's it. And my friends, as I close out every episode, I want to thank Dave for coming on, and I want to thank you for listening week after week, for continuing to reach out and just provide us with your feedback. Please, if you found some value in today's show, or you have a question for myself or Dave, shoot me an email, professional VFF. That's professionalvff@gmail.com. I will absolutely put you in touch with Dave if there's something that we touched on that you need more information on. I'll hook you up with him. Obviously through the social media channels at professional.brotherhood and Facebook at Chief Soller. And you can find everything. If all those handles are too much for you, just go to the website, professionalbrotherhood.com, and you can just find your way to the YouTube, to the Instagram, to the Facebook, to the email. And we can definitely, we love hearing from you. So keep that feedback coming. As I end every episode, please don't forget, a paycheck does not make you a professional. How you approach the job does. Stay healthy, stay safe, and until next time.